to the Vera Thomas show where testimony, reality and truth meet you at the front door. Perspective to propose. Politics, religion, we talk about the real world we live in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it on the Vera Thomas show. From purpose, uplift, encourage, inspire, motivate, and let's talk about it on the Vera Thomas show. The Vera Thomas show.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited today. My guest, Simona Rinfreschi, is all the way from Spain, Costa Blanca, Spain. And I am so honored that she is here as my guest today. How are you doing, Simona?
I'm doing great, and I am so grateful to be here. It's such a treat for me, especially because, I haven't actually been to the States yet, so it's quite exciting.
This is your intro into the United States via online. So let me share a little bit more about Simona Rinfreschi. She is an author, a speaker, and the founder of Presence Parenting, with a background in early childhood education and the lived experience of raising two children into successful adults. She supports moms of toddlers who are trying not to shout, not to give in, and not to turn every tantrum into proof they are doing something wrong. Her work helps parents understand what's happening during difficult behavior, hold firm limits without punishment or shame, and repair when things don't go as planned. She is also the author of Good Pixie, Bad Pixie, a magical picture book about feelings, behavior, and the harm of good and bad labels. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about why your toddler is not difficult. And before we even start with that conversation, I'm going to ask you to please share with us a little bit more about you, how you were raised, what was your childhood like, and how did it impact you? And I'm going to give you some time to talk about that.
Well, I didn't have the best childhood. I was born in Italy. When I was 7 years old, my parents decided to move us to South Africa. And, sorry, that noise distracted me. Okay. So I was 7 years old when my parents immigrated from Italy to South Africa. I couldn't speak a word of English, and I didn't know any of the games that South African kids like to play. So, as a result, I was bullied a lot, and my parents weren't particularly supportive. Um, and I decided when I was 12 years old and my youngest brother was born that I never wanted my children to ever feel all the things that I'd been going through. So that's actually when I started reading all the parenting magazines and books and things that I could get my hands on. And then, as soon as I was old enough to babysit other children apart from my own siblings, I started doing that. And then I went into early childhood education. And I was even a super sitter. In other words, I was actually hired by wealthy people to move into their homes and look after their so called problem children. And yeah, I was really very good at doing all that. So I was one of those annoying people who don't have any children yet, but think they know it all.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can so relate to that.
And then, of course, you know what happens when you have that kind of arrogance, right?
Yes.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened to me. None of my meticulously prepared birth plan went according to plan because my son started going into distress. So I had an emergency C-section. And then they couldn't get my bleeding to stop. So I almost died giving birth to my son. And as a result, he was taken down to the nursery, but they didn't take me down to the maternity wing because they had to transfuse blood into me and they were keeping me right by the operating room. And because of that, someone made a mistake and they actually gave him formula that was meant for an older baby because he was a big child at birth. And because there was no mother, they assumed that he was an older baby who was in the hospital because he was sick or something. So they gave him this formula, which of course made him sick. So they pumped out his stomach. I mean, honestly, everything that could have gone wrong with my first child's birth and subsequently pretty much did. He, because they pumped out his stomach, they damaged the little valve at the top of his stomach. And as a result, he actually projectile vomited every feed for the first year of his life. I got postpartum depression. We had thrush. We had colic, constant infections. I mean, honestly, I went from being a know-it-all, because that's what I was, to a mom who honestly felt the worst kind of failure in the only thing that had ever meant anything to me. That's all I wanted in my life. I wanted to be a good mom. And I felt I had completely dropped the ball. And then later on, when my son went to school, uh, the things, the way he was behaving in class and whatever made the teacher suspect that he might have some problems. In fact, they wanted to put him on Ritalin. So I had him assessed, and the child psychologist that assessed him, at the end of 2 days, she said, I've tested your son. All I know for sure is that he's very gifted, but there was one particular test that would normally show whether a child is autistic or not. And she said, no, below a certain number, it's one result. Above, below 50, I think she said it was not autistic. Above 50 was autistic. My son scored 50 precisely, exactly 50 on the dot. So she kind of shrugged and she goes, I don't know what to tell you. He's a smart boy, send him for some occupational therapy for some of his things, maybe some speech therapy, and that's it. So, and what I didn't mention was that I thought he was a miracle because I'd been told that I couldn't have children. So obviously, I was, uh, no, completely. I felt so blessed to have this child, even though he had all these problems, and I thought I was making so many mistakes. But still, to me, he was the most important thing in the world. But because I had had him and I had had all the problems, I then decided I didn't trust this OBGYN and I went on contraception. But when my son turned 2, my husband was, it would be nice to have another child. We don't know if we'll be blessed with another child. So just stop the contraception and see what happens. And so 6 months after I stopped the contraception, I was blessed with a second child. And my daughter was the complete opposite of my son, still is. Uh, but the beauty of it is that I got the experience. Yeah, that's them when they were teenagers. They're both in their 30s now. Um, but my daughter in particular has been my greatest teacher. And my son is a father himself now. He's an amazing dad to his little boy that will be turning 3 this year. Um, and yes, they're absolutely my heart and soul. I adore my family. And that, I suppose this has been a bit of a long-winded reason for why I do what I do, because when I was a desperate mom with that first precious child and nothing was going by the book, I wish there'd been someone to tell me, you know what? The book doesn't have all the answers. Trust
Absolutely.
yourself, right?
Absolutely. And so, one thing that came to mind, because of your experience as a child, at 12 years old, you started the research on how to raise a child. And then you became a nanny, a babysitter, and your pain became your purpose and your passion. And then having children, because I was the exact same way. I was able to I was an expert when talking with parents before I had a child, and like you, I had doctors tell me I would never have children. And I do have a son. But going through all the things that you've gone through and coming out on the other side with responsible, confident children full of self-esteem. And now you are enabling other parents to understand, particularly that toddler age and below 12. And you and I are working with the same type of parents in that we were looking at kids under 12. And so we want to talk about why your toddler is not difficult. And what does that mean when parents are pulling their hairs out because you got a toddler that's having a temper tantrum, or you got a toddler that's being resistant and telling you no, no, no. So let's talk about, how do we enable our children to be the best versions of themselves, even when things don't appear to be going as we as parents plan?
Absolutely. Look, the first thing which I know made a big difference to me was realizing that when, for example, when your child says no to you, they're not being rude or disrespectful. Once you understand that the no phase, where it comes from and why it happens, then you can accept it in a better way. So what I'm trying to say is this: at around 18 months or so, that's when your child realizes for real, for the first time, that there are separate individuals from you, the mom, and that they have some autonomy over their decisions and their lives. And the first way that they test that is by saying no. Now, a toddler's no doesn't necessarily even mean no. They just, it's easiest if you consider a toddler a little explorer or
A little
experimenter.
person. A
Yeah,
little person.
imagine that they are in this world. It's like if you were suddenly put on a strange planet and you didn't know the rules on that planet. You didn't know what was acceptable and what wasn't acceptable. So you go in testing. And that's what the little ones are doing. They're testing if, when you say no, if you mean it. They're testing the boundaries, not because they want you to take the boundary away, but because they want to make sure that the boundary is solid, that they can count on it, so that they can feel safe, that between the boundaries, they know what they can or can't do. Um, so I was actually speaking to a mom the other day, and she said, she couldn't understand why she just wanted to put socks on her little boy, and she thought it would take 30 seconds. And instead, it became a whole thing that he refused every pair of socks she brought out. And in the end, after trying on basically all the socks he owned, he accepted the very first pair that he'd originally said no to.
Okay,
And
let's talk about this for a minute,
yep.
because number one, boundaries are very important, and kids
Mm-hmm.
need to understand and recognize that immediately. Now, the parent who changed socks over and over and over again to come back to the first pair, as a parent, what could have been a better way to address that issue?
Before it became an issue,
Before it became an issue.
she should have gone out with 2 pairs of socks, only 2. See, this is what happened. The little boy wants to have some say in his life,
And he
right?
wants to feel in control.
Exactly. So if mom only comes out with 1 pair of socks, he's like, Mom, you're forcing me to put on these socks. So there's going to be pushback. Mom comes with 2 pairs of socks, and he gets to pick which one he wants. All of a sudden, it's his decision to put those socks on. What went out of control in that sock situation is that the more socks she brought out, the more overwhelmed the child became. So what started out as just I want a little say about what socks I'm going to put on, then became a full-on tantrum with him crying on the ground because now he was overwhelmed. And that's the thing that happens most often. Tantrums are usually not about the thing that you think they're about. Tantrums usually happen for these couple of reasons. Either the child is just looking for a little bit of control,
And
and often
attention.
giving them a choice between 2 things is often enough to make them happy that they've had some sort of control. Or they might be experiencing uncomfortable feelings that they don't know how to express. If they're feeling overwhelmed or overtired or hungry or a whole mixture of those things, they don't know how to deal with it. And that's when the tantrum happens.
Well, let
And
me say,
honestly,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, yep, go ahead. No, what I was saying is the moment when they're in that tantrum situation, they're in the fight or flight response of the brain. So their logical mind is actually shut down. And that's why when parents try and reason with a child that's in full meltdown, it doesn't work because the child is not even understanding what the parent is saying in that moment.
Okay. Now, a couple of things
Mhm.
where tantrums are concerned. And also, one of the things when children have the ability to make a decision about what clothes they want to put on, one of the things that I recommend and also did was allow that child to pick out what they wanted to wear and pick out the socks for that outfit. And that way, a child feels that sense of independence, which is what they're fighting for with that tantrum, and eliminating that by allowing the children to pick out their own outfits and taking it from there. That is very empowering for a child. Now, another thing, I remember when my son had a tantrum in a grocery store because he wanted me to purchase something that at the time I wasn't able to do. And so he goes into this tantrum and literally falls out on the ground, on the floor. And rather than yell at him, rather than try to make him get up, I looked at him and I walked away. And as a result of walking away, what did he do? He got up and he came to where I was. And I said to him, this is not how you get what you want. We don't do this kind of thing. If I say no, it is for a reason. But now that you have behaved in such a manner, even if I wanted to get it for you, right now, I'm not feeling comfortable doing that because of how you reacted. And so let's learn that the best way to get what you want from mommy is to ask and then understand if she says no. So
We did
sometimes
exactly, yeah, we did exactly the same thing. My son tried that only once.
only once.
Only once. He threw himself down on the ground, and my husband and I just looked at each other, and without saying a word, we just carried on walking. We were checking him out, like, we just carried on down the aisle. We could still see him out of the
Right,
corner of
right.
our eye. But exactly the same thing happened. The second he saw that we were paying zero attention to him, he came trotting after us, and that was the end of it. The
Yes.
other thing that is one of the things, because recently I actually spoke to both my children about things that I thought I hadn't done right when they were kids. And my son said, Mom, I don't remember any of that. All I remember is that I always felt loved, and I knew that dad and you had my back on the important things. And another thing that they both said that they appreciated was that I never had them doubting what was going on. This is, because children, especially very young children, are very, very sensitive to our vibes. They can pick
Yes.
up tension, and their imagination is so much worse than whatever is actually going on. So I have found with my children, especially, that telling them the truth about an unpleasant thing. For example, I had autoimmune diseases when they were little. So there were days that mommy wasn't much good for anyone. She pretty much just had to stay in bed. But telling them, look, there's nothing for you to worry about. Mommy is just feeling a little bit sore today. Let's just sit on the bed and I'll read you a story or something like that. It just took the worry of what might be going on out of the equation. We also went through a stage where money was tight, and And they was very young when they learned the difference between needs and wants. I told them, look, guys, you never have to worry. The needs are covered, but we might not always have for the wants. So when they were a little bit older, if we were at a supermarket and they wanted something, I would ask them, is this a need or a want? And the answer was a want. I said, well, right now we don't have money for the wants, but I'll keep it in mind when the situation changes. I know that this is something that you would like to have.
Okay, that's awesome. And I want to just kind of interject because of the things that you're saying is so true. And I think it's very important. Like you said, children pick up on every stress that we are experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important that we are able to communicate and articulate with them without going into details, not
Exactly.
insinuating your children in your problems or issues or concerns, but helping them to understand, just as you did, mommy is not feeling well today. Let's do this, as opposed to me getting up, come and I'll read to you. That's beautiful. So the point that we're trying to make here is, parents, communicate with your kids what's going on with you. I remember when my son was 2 years old, and I just knew this boy had a problem. I knew something was wrong with him. And so I took him to a counselor. And I'm saying to him, I don't know, this kid is out of control, And as she's talking to me, her first question was, tell me, what's going on with you? And at the time, I was under so much stress. I had left my husband, because of abuse. And so I was really going through some changes and stuff myself.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me and she said, it's not your kid, it's you. And he's picking up on your stresses. And when I understood that, then I was better able to understand and address his behaviors and helped him to understand that it's not him. You're not the problem.
Exactly.
I am, and being able to acknowledge with your children when you are not 100%, that can help diffuse some of the misbehaviors by having that communications, and that when your child is able to talk, he's able to understand when we communicate at their level and physically at their level, not standing over them, but bending down to their eye level so that they can understand and appreciate what you're saying and see how concerned and how much you value them.
Absolutely. That's super important. Honestly, if you want to have good communication when your kids are teenagers, the best time is to actually start that when they're toddlers.
Absolutely. You cannot wait until a child is in middle school and high school and expect to have that kind of dialogue with them if you didn't have it when they were little.
Yeah.
So important.
Agreed.
So go ahead. I like to have the back and forth conversations.
Absolutely. I was wondering if there was another question on there.
No, I just in terms of another question, let's talk about when a child, we just mentioned when a child is having a tantrum, but let's talk about when a child tells you no. Let's talk about that.
Yes. Well, first thing, don't take it personally. Second thing, know that this phase will pass. And I know, for example, in my house, say this is a common battle. Food is often a battle with children, especially little children. And I was raised in a house. Well, before I went to live with my parents, I was living with my grandparents, and my gran was one of those people who showed her love by feeding you a lot. So I was never allowed to get up from the table until my plate was clean. And
Mm.
as a result, that has led to me always being overweight and having a lot of problems with food and things like that. And I never wanted to have that with my children. But on the other hand, I also didn't want to drive myself crazy or throw away food. So the things in my house were very simple. If you say you're not hungry, fine, you're not eating. But if you are hungry, then you eat what I've prepared for you. I'm not a short auto cook. I'm not going to cook a million things for you.
I
So,
know that's right.
so
And
if you say no to this, fine, you don't have to eat it, but you're not getting anything else.
and you know what? Some people may say that's kind of cruel, but on the other hand, it's teaching them, we don't always get what we want, but we get what we need. And if you're not
Exactly.
willing to eat what we have, you have made the decision, and therefore you have to accept responsibility if you end up being hungry. I
Exactly.
remember, and times were really lean for me, and I had made this beefaroni and we had it for like 3 days, right?
Yeah.
And I remember my son, he was 3 at the time, and he looked at me when I put it down for the third time. He looked at me and he shook his head and he said, "Mom, I'm tired of this." And I said, "Just one more day, eat it just one more day."
Yeah.
But having kids be able to express and articulate how they feel is also very important.
Absolutely. I mean, my favorite story about food actually is when my daughter started first grade. I went to pick her up after school, and the teacher came up to me and she goes, "I have to ask you something." And I'm like, "What?" She says, "Is it true that your daughter's favorite food is broccoli?" And I had to think about that for a minute, because obviously, when in class you asked everybody for their favorite food, most kids were saying chips or chocolates or sweets
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah,
My
yeah.
daughter was the only one in all her years as a teacher that had said broccoli as the answer to favorite food. And then I realized why that was, because we usually made cauliflower and broccoli in a cheese sauce for celebrations, like special meals. We didn't normally cook broccoli for like everyday stuff. So in her mind,
It
the
was
broccoli was
special.
associated with uh, something pleasurable, a feast, the whole family getting together. And that's always stuck with me. And in fact, both my children have got a perfect relationship with food. I mean, my daughter is so fit and healthy, and so is my son. And she said she really appreciated the fact that we never used food, or especially not desserts or sweets or chocolates, as any kind of reward,
Absolutely.
or like or or punishment. It's not like you don't eat this, you don't get dessert.
Right.
If you don't eat this, if you say you're not hungry, then you're not hungry, then there's no space for dessert. But
Exactly.
you know
Yes. And
but it's
see,
not that it was never conditional. And as a result, the kids never saw food as a uh, you know as something like
a
sweet or
tool.
whatever, as a reward,
Right.
which had stood them in excellent stead, because even now they can take it or leave it. yes, they enjoy a nice dessert on occasion, but it's not like, oh, now that I'm an adult, I'm going to eat all the desserts because when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to.
You sound like me because I wasn't big on sweets. I even growing up in our home,
Hmm.
sweets were not like the main thing. There would be times like on Sundays, we'd always have dessert, and there would be times, and there were four of us kids. There would be times when cake would actually go stale because we weren't big on sweets. And
Hmm.
when I became a parent, I refused to give my son candy, okay, which everybody else thought was so cruel. How could you not give your child candy? And it got to the point where my son would go over other people's houses, family and friends and things like that, and pitifully he was saying, my mom doesn't give me candy. And as a result, people would give him candy, right? But the other thing where food and cooking and all that is concerned, if your child shows an interest in cooking or helping you in the kitchen, regardless of the age, let them do so.
Absolutely.
Let them do so. My son started being in the kitchen with me, when he was in elementary school. And now he's 40, he'll be 43 the end of this month. And he loves to cook.
Yeah.
And that started from an early age. And when you allow your children to do those things, it can free you up when you're really busy because they can prepare a meal for you. He used to cook dinner for, I was working full time and going to school, and I'd come home and dinner would be ready, and it's like, that's such a good feeling. And it all started from the time that he was in elementary school. So if your children, whatever they are showing an interest in, it's important that you feed that,
Oh,
nurture that.
absolutely. Children are honestly much more capable than we think they are. That's one of the things that I really admire about my son and my daughter-in-law. I mean, they had my grandson unload the dishwasher, obviously under supervision, but from when he was just over 18 months, he was barely steady on his feet. And it was amazing to me to see this little boy who needed both hands to carry one plate, toddle over and do it without breaking anything,
And
without
feeling
causing.
so proud.
Absolutely. I
Yes.
mean, it's really amazing, and I agree. The sooner you can get them to help with chores, with cooking, the more likely they are to not think of them as chores. Because when they're little like that, to them,
It's
all of that is
fun.
fun. It's all play.
Yes.
So if they do
Yes.
it as play, how wonderful. Then you don't have the problem of your teenager leaving the plates in the room and not even put them in the dishwasher. Never mind wash
Absolutely.
them, you know.
Absolutely. I agree. My son started vacuuming. He was tall for his age, and he started vacuuming when he was 4 years old.
Oh yeah.
And
I don't
and
know what it is about boys and vacuums, but my son and grandson as well. It was the first thing. I actually have a photo of my son. Back then, we had those really old-fashioned big hoovers with the
yes,
thing at the back,
yes, yes,
and you could barely reach it. And it was
yes.
too cute.
Yes, and but it teaches responsibility,
Yeah.
and it also builds their confidence
Hmm.
when you give them responsibilities at an early age.
Absolutely.
Having them pick up after themselves, pick up your toys instead of you bending down and getting their toys and what have you. Even as toddlers, even as when they're able to walk,
Hmm.
they can pick up their own toys and put them where they belong. They can pick up they can clean their room.
Now,
I'm
this
telling
reminds
you,
me.
teaching your kids responsibilities at an early age is so very important.
Absolutely. I want to share the story of this one dad who handled this brilliantly. So he told his daughter to put the books that she had on the floor back in the bookcase. And she went, no. And he's like, you have to do that, or I'm going to put you in a timeout in your cot. And then you're still going to have to put the books back in the bookcase. So, what do you want to do? Pick up the books now or go in your cot? Little one goes, cot. Daddy didn't argue with her or anything. He just quietly picked her up, put her in the cot, and walked out the room. Not even a minute later, she's
She's
calling
crying.
him. No, not crying. She's just going, Daddy, books. So he took her out of the cot. She went and she packed her books away. You see, that no, again, it wasn't about anything other than testing the boundary. The
Yes.
dad handled that brilliantly.
Yes,
He
he
gave her the
did.
options, but she still had to put the books away. And
Exactly.
she
And
was 2. I mean, 2 years old. And I'm telling you, our kids are much smarter than we think they are. And they are very quick to understand if a line is firm or not. And you're not doing
absolutely.
them any favors by changing the rules.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're talking boundaries, but also what he was teaching her were aspects of critical thinking
Mhm.
because she was able to make a choice. And so, parents, allow your children to make a choice. If there is something you want them to do, let them know this is what I need you to do. And if they rebel against it, ask them, okay, so if you're refusing to do this, what should I do? What should I do about this? What would you do about this?
Yeah.
And talk to them, ask them questions, make them think about what they're doing or not doing and the consequences for it. You know, if they tell you no, just like that father, if they tell you no, okay, well, this is the consequence for you saying no.
Mhm.
When you do that, one, you're having your children accept responsibility. They're learning that it's their how they relate, react, and respond is on them, and the consequences thereof are too.
Mhm.
And you can start at an early age.
Yeah, it's like that story of, the question, when is the best time to plant a tree? The answer is 20 years ago. But if you didn't plant it 20 years ago, plant it today. And that's the other thing I want to share. I mean, if there's any parents who say, oh, well, I've missed out. I mean, my kids are older now. I didn't do any of this when they were little. It's not too late. It
No,
really isn't. It's never too late. I mean, I didn't tell you much about my background with my mom, but let's just say that we did not have any relationship, really, not in no way positive. But okay, I'm 57 now. My mom is 81, and we've had the best relationship for the past 4 years or so.
okay, what made it change?
What made it change was, honestly, my point of view to a big part, because I realized that it's possible for two people to experience the same exact event and yet experience it differently.
Yes.
For most of my life, I thought my mother was lying when she remembered something that I remembered in a completely different way. It was only when I learned that, our memories are not like, it's not like we've got like little filing cabinets in our brains where everything is neatly categorized and everything is an actual copy of exactly what happened. We've got feelings and things about what happens. It's never encoded as pure truth. It's always encoded from our point of view. And our point of view is very often different from somebody else's. So that was the first step for me, realizing, okay, so my mom is not lying. She's not doing this deliberately. And also understanding that she did the best she could under the circumstances. It might not be good what she did, but she didn't know any better.
Right.
She,
And
she
that's
couldn't do better, right?
yes. And
So once,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was once I accepted that. Once I accepted that, once I could see her with compassion for what she was going through, then I was open to actually creating a new relationship, woman to woman at this point, not rehashing the past. The past is a past, but the past doesn't have to be your future. If you really
Absolutely.
want to, no matter what happened in the past, if you really want to, you can create a good relationship with your children or with your parents. As long as you're alive, it's not too late. There's just got to be the goodwill of wanting to do this. And it's worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful. There's a couple points I want to make. One, we don't have control over who our parents are. Two, we don't have control over how they relate, react, and respond. Three, oftentimes parents are struggling with their own unresolved issues that you may not be aware of that's causing them to behave the way that they may be behaving.
Mhm.
And also, as teenagers and middle school children, you have the ability to set boundaries even with your parents when they may be treating you in such a way that does not make you feel well or does not make you feel good, does not make you feel confident or have self-esteem. As a child, you are able to identify what your boundaries are. And for example, if a mother or a father is constantly criticizing you, constantly belittling you, you can, in fact, say to that parent, this is hurting me. I am not, I do not have to allow myself to listen to all this negative stuff that you're coming at me with. I am not going to continue with this conversation. Now, a parent might get really upset by this. However, being able to take your power as a child and say, this doesn't feel good. So I'm going to leave, go into my room or go somewhere else until you can talk to me better. And
Yeah.
I will talk to you better as well. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Look, there are some times when that is not safe to do, though. I mean, we have to
You have to,
acknowledge we have to acknowledge that there are some parents who do get violent, and obviously your safety is more important than anything else. If you know that standing up to your parent will cause you physical harm, what I recommend in that case is that you say that to yourself internally. That's not true. What they're saying isn't true about me. Just reassure yourself that that is not true. Most parents, if you do say that to them, they will be taken aback because a lot of them don't realize what they're actually saying in the moment or how it's affecting you. That's actually the reason why I wrote Good Pixie, Bad Pixie. It's because parents sometimes don't realize what saying something like, even something that they think is good, like good girl. Being raised as a good girl made me think that I had to be perfect, that I wouldn't be loved if I wasn't perfect. And a lot of parents don't even realize that good girl isn't a compliment, for example. Um, I also know for a fact that a lot of children live up to whatever label has been given to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do want to say something about this because one of the things that I was told by an adult was, you're nothing, you'll never be anything. And now, as a child, hearing that and hearing you're stupid, you're dumb, you're fat, you're ugly, you're nothing, you'll never be anything, all those things, those negative tapes that I heard as a child could have truly impacted me. And it did impact me as I was growing up. But then I started reading self-help books and self-personal development and working on myself and recognizing just because they said those things does not make it true. Also understanding what Eleanor Roosevelt said when she said, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. Once I understood that, then I also understood that I did not have to believe every word of everything that was said to me. And I had the opportunity to confront. I was getting ready to leave. I was moving to another state. And I remember saying to this person, well, it was a perfect opportunity because this person was playing with one of my little cousins who was a toddler. And he was showing him so much love and just embracing this child. And I said to him, I said, you see how you're showing so much love to this child? I said, never, ever say to them, you're nothing, you'll never be anything.
Yeah.
I said, you have no idea the impact that you could have had on my life. And so being able, so when I say, as parents or as children, particularly young adults or middle school, high school, being able to share your thoughts and your feelings. And I did say, I don't know how you're going to respond to this, but I just want you to know the impact that could have had on my life. And so sometimes, and you have to read your parents. You can't, I'm not suggesting that you come at them in the way that I just recommended. If you know that they are volatile, if you know that they are not going to receive it well, in a case like that, just walk away. Just walk away. And if they say, why are you walking away from me? Just say, I would rather talk to you when you can be a little nicer. I remember my son saying to me one day, because I was stressed. I was trying to get ready for work. And my son was the type of kid, he would wake up in the morning singing. Okay. He would wake up in the morning singing. He was just a happy-go-lucky kid. But this particular day, I snapped at him because I was trying to hurry up and get ready and all this stuff. And he was taking his time or whatever. And he looked at me and he said, why are you so mean to me? That just broke my heart. And it wasn't him, it was me. I was rushing, I was stressed, I was feeling it, and I might have snapped at him when I shouldn't have. You know what I'm saying? So I had to apologize for that, but him being able to speak his mind and tell me how he felt,
Priceless.
it is priceless, and parents, when your kids do that to you, don't get upset. Take what they're saying to heart and make an adjustment if need be.
Honestly, the important thing is, I don't want anyone listening to this to think, oh, I have to be perfect all the time and never snap and never get angry. That's not what we're saying at all.
No, not at all.
More than, in fact, that would not be good for your children, because
Right.
at the end of the day, we need to prepare our children for the world that they live in. And let's be honest, the world that they live in is not always fair and it's not always nice. They need to understand that unpleasant things can happen and mistakes happen, even especially by adults. So honestly, the best thing you can do for your children is just show them how to respond when you make a mistake,
Absolutely.
how to just apologize. Repairing
Yes.
the relationship is more important than anything else. And that's, once you do that, you, again, children will do what you do more than they'll do what you say. So
Absolutely.
if you apologize to them, they are much more likely to apologize to the next person when they've done something that maybe they shouldn't have.
Yes. And it's okay to apologize to your children, especially when you know
Yeah,
that you could have handled the situation differently.
absolutely.
You
It's
know,
important that children know that you're a human being, that, things get to you as well. Um,
absolutely. And you have a gift that you want to share. Let me pull this gift up and also the link where people can get it. Let me get it here. Okay. So you have a gift. It's called the Gentle Reset. You want to tell us a little more about that?
I call it parenting first aid because it's just a simple little thing that you can do that helps you calm yourself down so that you can deal with whatever it is more effectively, whether it's a series of no's or whether it's a tantrum, or whether it's simply because you are feeling tense and you know that if you can't calm yourself down, you will snap at somebody. That's what the gentle reset is all about.
Well, you can get it at https:// Simona, S as in Sam, I, M as in Mary, O as in Oscar, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, dash RIN as in Nancy, F as in Frank, R as in Robert, E as in Edward, S as in Sam, C as in cat, H as in Harry, I dash author.kit.com/7B6C7342A5. Now, I read that out for those of you that are listening to the podcast and you don't see it. And it will also be in the chat when we go live. So anyway, you
I
can
have
get
to
your,
apologize. I have to apologize for that horrible link that's so long.
well,
If
you
you
know
don't
what?
remember any of that, if you don't remember any of that, just remember my name and surname, Simona Rinfreschi, and go to simonarinfreschi.com and you will be able to find it there as well.
Okay, awesome. And also, one of the things you might want to consider is a bit.ly link
Yeah,
for
I have
things
to look
like
into
this.
that.
I'll tell you more about it. I use it a lot. So I will tell you more about it. Okay. Well, we've got less than a minute. And what I'm going to do is give you the floor and let you have the last words after I pull this down and bring us back here. And I'm going to give you the floor and let you share some final words.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I want everyone to know that my ultimate mission is to create, nurture, and grow a global community of parents who are willing and able to help each other raise resilient children for whom love, understanding, and mutual respect are the norm. Right now, I'm starting by helping the parents of toddlers because those first 5 years are so crucial in laying the foundations for a happy life. But feel free to reach out no matter where you are in your journey. I'll be happy to get to know you and see how I can help.
That's amazing. And Simona is going to be one of the presenters at our family summit. I will be giving more information as we're developing this. It will be September 15th, 16th, and 17th from 5 p.m. EDT to 9 p.m. And it's for the whole family. It's called Family Powerhouse. Greatness starts at home. And I'm excited that we will have speakers from all over the world because parenting issues is an international issue. Every parent all over the world could benefit from this summit. And again, Simona is going to be one of the presenters for this conference summit that's coming up September 15th, 16th, and 17th. Mark your calendars. And please like, share, and comment on the Vera Thomas Show. Please subscribe to the Vera Thomas Show. And if you would like to help us with the things that we're trying to do to promote and build strong families and communities, then you can also donate to the Vera Thomas Show by going to Cash App, $Instill Great, or Venmo at VT1117. So your donations are greatly appreciated. And again, Simona, I appreciate you being here today. And we will be talking again soon. And what I want to say to our audience, thank you so much for listening. God bless you. And you have a wonderful day. I'm going to pull you down and then bring you back up.
Talk about it on the Vera Thomas Show. The Vera Thomas Show.